Hello, welcome to the FSM Network podcast series. This is Carrie Ward, Executive Director of Fostering Success Michigan. FSM is a statewide initiative focused on increasing post-secondary access and success for youth with experience in foster care, and FSM is a program of Educate Tomorrow. Before we get started, I want to thank our funders, the Wegge Foundation, and our individual donors for supporting the work of Fostering Success Michigan. You make our work possible. If you are interested in learning more about our projects, please visit the Fostering Success Michigan website at fosteringsuccessmichigan.com. So today I am here with the Changemakers, who are a group of young leaders with experience in foster care, housing insecurity, refugee status, who are focused on using their voices and expertise to provide peer-to-peer leadership and advocate for change in the child welfare system in Michigan and beyond. I want to give the Changemakers a chance to introduce themselves. And so I'm just going to call on you according to where I can see you on camera. So let's start with Jordy.
Hello, my name is Jordy Ntiaka. I go to GVSU. I have a refugee status, I like advocating and doing this work because, when I came here to the US, people show me love. So in my way to return the favor. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jordy.
Yeah.
Gary.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Terry Almami, and I attend Aquinas College currently, pursuing for political science and legal study. And yeah, thank you for having me. I cannot wait to get on it and to release what is on my chest.
Thank you, Terry. Tyler.
Hey, I'm Tyler McAvoy. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a student at GVSU studying secondary education. Happy to be here.
Thanks, Tyler. Bria.
Hi, I'm Bria Buchan. I am a student at Grand Valley State University pursuing social work. I'm happy to be here as well.
Thank you, Bria. Sarah, who is a FSM intern, MSW intern.
Hello, I'm Sarah Altvader. I'm an MSW intern. I'm attending Spring Arbor University right now, and I'm a full-time student and full-time mom.
Thanks, Sarah. And last but not least, Brina, who is Changemakers project coordinator.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brina Williams. My pronouns are they, them. Like Carrie just mentioned, I am project coordinator for Changemakers, as well as one of Carrie's MSW interns at Western Michigan University.
Thanks, you guys, for taking a few minutes to talk to me about voting and advocacy today. So I just want to give everybody a little bit of background because, I feel like people are like, why voting? Why are we talking about this? Of course, there's a midterm election coming up on November 8th, and voting is very important, but it's specifically important for youth with experience in foster care, as well as those in marginalized populations, especially our youth of color. So just kind of want to talk through and let people know why we're doing this. So we currently have a partnership with Civic Influencers, which is a national organization focused on increasing youth voice and vote. And a couple months ago, I had a colleague of mine who is a former coach at one of our campuses reach out, and she was working for Civic Influencers and said, I'm really interested in getting youth who have experienced foster care involved with this project, because I know that FSM does a lot of work around advocacy for these young people. And so it just really made a lot of sense to elevate our young people's voice and vote. But even after we start talking about it, there was this conversation that we had with the Changemakers where I was like, do they even talk to you about voting when you're transitioning out? And how does that work? Even thinking about all of the conversations that we have with our young people about the potential of college and education and post-secondary education, it just occurred to me that probably conversations about voting aren't occurring. So we did a little bit of digging, and we found out that California has some legislation in place that specifically requires caseworkers in that state to talk to their young people about voting as they're transitioning out of foster care, and they give them like a whole bunch of resources and tools. And so we started doing a little digging here in Michigan to find out what happened, or what happens when a young person ages out. And there is like one sentence in the MDHHS procedure and process manual that basically says that when young people age out, the caseworkers are supposed to mention voting and refer them to the state of Michigan or the Secretary of State, which we had thoughts about because, like, number one, that's probably not enough information for our young people to actually get involved with voting. But then the other conversations that we were having were about the fact that like our young people are also really concerned about how to pay for food and housing and all of these other things when they're transitioning. So they're probably not thinking a whole lot about voting. It probably seems like kind of a vague idea when they're actually dealing with the issues that impact them. However, the idea of voting is important because it stimulates and impacts change on a systemic level. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that. And we created some voting resources that you can find on the FSM website. So all of our change makers here wrote a blog about voting. And then we created a toolkit. So if you're interested in reading the blogs, you can go to the FSM stories page. And then our toolkit is in the library, and it will take you through step by step about voting and like why it's important and how to do it. But I kind of wanted to bring the conversation back a little bit to the change makers so that we can kind of talk about what that's like or why is it important. And so that's actually like my first question. And I think I want to start with Terry and Jordy, because you have refugee status. And so we talked a little bit about whether or not youth who have refugee status are able to vote in our country. So could you guys talk a little bit about that? Are you able to vote?
Thank you for that question. That's it's a very important question to ask. Yeah, as a refugee, when you have like you are permanent resident, you're not able to vote, but you're able to make change. Like today we have seen abortion with something that people have been talking about is a hot topic, but it not only it affect the global population, not the whole population, but it affect the system. It affect also some refugee or some people who has residence status and stuff. So in order to make change as someone who has a residence status, if you're not able to vote, you can join, interest group like, civic influence. They are advocating for, people, for everybody who are finding themselves in the situation that the policy of the governor or the policy that are impacting their life in the way they could not do much, and yeah, I mean, when you have when you have the residence permanent status, you cannot vote. But when you get your citizenship as a refugee, you have to be here for 5 years, and then you'll be able to vote to make change like everyone.
Thanks, Jordy. Terry?
Yeah, I just want to echo with what Jordy says. According to the U.S. Constitution, only U.S. citizen 18 and older can vote to U.S. federal election. Maybe some states allow people to vote, but I don't think Michigan have that in the Constitution. So, we can vote, as a refugee or like permanent resident status, we can vote, but this program just help us, refugees are part of the population too. We have a lot of topic that touch us, like as a refugee, our mom, our sister, our brother. So all those laws, when they pass, they hit us as they hit the US citizen. So since we live in here, as someone who had the chance to attend college, by the way, I don't know if you yeah, I don't from here. My English, maybe some don't understand it, but yeah, I'm just trying to make it quick. But yeah, like as someone who's in school, like we saw that we can impact our peers. Like some of us are athletes, some of us go to school. So you can be involved by giving people information about the importance of voting and how they can participate to do the civic duty. It's just like voting is a civic duty. It's just like to go make your voice heard. So since we can make our peers to, like we can share our idea with them, and then they can vote. Since they can vote, we have the voting statute. So yeah, like that's like Jody say, it's just like when you have an idea you want to make an impact, but you cannot do it through ballot. You can do it through a civic participation, if I may say, and to talk with your friend, your professor, and in your community, like to make them aware that you are part of the country, and you want your voice to be heard, even though the constitution doesn't allow it, but like the community can know what impact you too, like because any law that pass will impact all of us. So yeah, that's just want to stop there.
Thank you, Terry. So you bring up a really important point, like you have to be 18 and older to vote, but like one of the things that FSM has done, like historically, is make sure that we're elevating the vote of, or not the vote, but the voice of young people who have experienced foster care, even if they're like not 18. And so we want to make sure that those impacted by the systems have an opportunity to use their voice. And so I would love for Brina to talk a little bit about your experience as an advocate, because you're an expert advocate in the state of Michigan and beyond. So if you can talk a little bit about your experience as an advocate, even before you turned 18.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie. I want to start by like going back to the point you made about talking to young people about voting. I've experience in foster care, so I spent 1.5 years in high school in foster care, and I can confidently say that during that time, I was not talked to about voting by a caseworker or really any supportive adult that I can remember. I do remember being exposed to voting because I was active on my high school's like student government. But aside from that, like in terms of foster care and the conversation about voting, that seemed very non-existent. I was reunified with my mom, so my biological parents, and so I didn't age out of care to know what that experience was like. But I did spend a lot of time advocating. I did join what is called Michigan's Youth Opportunities Initiative, and kind of started advocating through that organization, and it's branched off to a lot of things. It's connected to me to FSM. It's connected me to the National Foster Youth Institute, which is a national organization. And I've had a lot of opportunities to advocate. And I would almost say that that can be more effective than voting itself. I really like what Jordy and Terry both had to say about there are multiple, like there's other ways to advocate for change that isn't necessarily just, voting. Now that I am 18, I do make it a priority to vote just because as an advocate, I think it's really important to utilize every opportunity available to me to use my voice when I have the chance, especially since like having been in foster care, I know what it's like to not have a voice. And so I think a lot of these organizations, FSM being one of them, does a really, really fantastic job of uplifting youth voice. And whether it's through blogs or podcasts, really giving us an opportunity to speak about our opinions and the things that affect us, because it's just so important to get young people involved in this conversation, I think, because this is our future. These are policies that affect us. It should be us making these decisions, and it should be a priority to us because it's the future that we have to live with. And older people, it's not the future that we have to live with. So
I would say too, like one of the things that you said was it's important that organizations give you the opportunity. I would say that we absolutely, like, it's not even about us giving you the opportunity. It's about us elevating your voice because you're leading our work. And also I would say that like at least so many instances of like when we've gone to Lansing and talked to legislators, they don't know a whole lot about foster care. And so part of the whole advocacy jam is actually increasing understanding and knowledge about what foster care is, what the experience is like, and what the issues are. Same with refugee status. Like Terry and Jordy, I just started working with you and I don't know all those answers. And so all of those things are really important as we need to school our legislators about this issue and lift these issues up. Bria, you talked about in your blog an example of a time when you really, really wanted to advocate for something, or you were called to like create change, but there were barriers. And I think that there's like a theme here as we're talking about what to do if there are barriers. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, so there's a program called Teen/Adult Challenge. They help recovering addicts from alcohol or drugs. And from elementary school, they would come in, share their stories, what they've been through. And it just like always impacted me. I always felt for them. And from elementary all the way to high school, they would come in and I was like, oh, I really want to do something to make a change. So then in college, in a social work class, we actually took like a field trip there. And I decided to finally take my shot and try to volunteer there or see if I could do something. So I reached out to them, but unfortunately they don't take volunteers or hire people unless you've gone through the program yourself. And it's not something I was looking to do. So I found other ways where I could like impact them. And so there was a couple Christmases, I made 74 homemade Christmas cards. Each had an own quote or its own picture, because most people there don't have family who visit them or talk to them or even get a Christmas card. So I made Christmas cards for the men and women in that organization.
Nice. Yeah. So there's lots of different things that you can do to think creatively about advocacy and impacting change, even if if there are barriers. Tyler, I'm going to throw this one to you. One of the things that I included in the voting toolkit was a section about like the question about like housing insecurity. And so do you know, is there messaging in the state of Michigan around like whether or not you can vote if you are couch surfing or having difficulty with housing? Do you know like about any of that?
I honestly don't know. I haven't ever actually stayed in a shelter, so I don't know what's talked about there. I've mostly been couch surfing, and what goes on between those walls is nothing related to anything voting wise or anything like that. I think the biggest barrier to getting to vote and figuring out where you're supposed to vote is not having any of your things with you, so you don't know where you're supposed to go or any of that. Yeah, I guess.
I think there's a lot of messaging, I think, in previous years about like having to have an address. So like when you vote, you have to have an address. And so just thinking about like if you're couch surfing, like or whatever, then what, like that's like the number one barrier. And then also like transportation, or like, how do I get there? How do I even know where to go? Right. And again, like thinking about our young people who are experiencing housing insecurity, like how tough, what are you even thinking about voting? You know what I mean? Like maybe not, but again, like it's making sure that we have legislators in place that value like those experiences of young people and want to make those changes. So I think that it's really important. And actually, I didn't know this, but they did during the last election, they did a whole like advocacy thing about making sure that people who have experience or who are experiencing homelessness can vote. So like some of the things that they were saying were like, just use a street corner or like any place like that you're familiar with, just use an address and then put that down, and that you're able to vote. So that was something that I didn't know. Terry, did you have a comment?
yes, I just wanted like to run up like because all my peer here has raised some question and they address some of them. I just wanted like especially the housing or the case manager. As I tell you in the beginning, I was in a foster care too. Like I went through a program called the Bethany Christian Service, and from there, like Brenna said, you don't have access to any political stuff. Your case manager just come, they have the court date, your medical, visit and stuff. Yeah, like I think addressing those issues would be super helpful to kids with experience with foster care. Like those to tell those case manager to start involving the kid into the political arena, to start teaching them their right and how they can vote, or how to have some basic information about their right in voting. And I think it would be super helpful. And plus, you guys were talking about the housing. I personally experienced that. I can say Jody can testify on that, because when I was in college, like we have a spring break, like or like Christmas break. Everyone go home, and like you stay on the campus alone. You don't know where to go. Personally, I was there, like I didn't know where to go. Like I don't have family or like somewhere to go, so I just had to say, oh yeah, I had to call a friend or to stay on campus. And a lot of campus charge you extra for staying that during those break. And I think helping kids like us who had those difficulties would be super helpful to the student, even to be more stable in their mind about housing. And it will help them to relieve some stress so they can be successful in school. Like, because a successful person have to have a peaceful mind. So like those kind of information, if our policymaker can have those information, because I think a lot of our policymaker are a bunch of rich kids who are there, they never had any problem through their young when they grow up. So like when you expose them to this some information, some of them doesn't believe it. They say, oh, no, I did not do that, I went to college, I never had that. But like a lot of people have those experiences. So I think there are good information to some of them to teach to the youth, and the other one to tell the policymaker, this is what we have. And I think FSM is doing super great job in that. And like especially the voting, like thanks to FSM, we got connected to this civic influencer, which is a nationwide voting organization that push students to help each other, like to raise their voice in campuses and the community. I think it's the right way to go. It will help a lot of young people, because as Brenna said in the beginning, we are the future. It's not like Bernie Sanders or Joe Biden 80, 70, like they are there, like, yeah. So yeah, we need to have more young people in Congress and in the Senate, so our voice can be representative. Because as long as the old people are the representative, they are the majority, we gonna get what we want, because they don't know what we're going through, like right. We don't have video right now, so like we have those cards and stuff, so we have a different issue. So I think we need to bring more young people to those positions so they can address our issue. So
yeah, thanks, Terry. Sarah, I don't want to leave without asking you a question. You can hear us, right?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So if you can tell us, or you can close it out for us by saying like, why is it important for young people to vote?
I would say it's important for young people to vote, obviously for policy changes, but your vote does matter. I think it's easy to just think, oh, well, my vote doesn't really matter that much. It's only one vote, but it really does. And I think that when we make those changes in the system, it makes it easier for the next generation that comes along. And I know that my family not everybody could vote. My grandparents migrated here from Mexico and Spain. And so I feel like it's a chance to vote for them too. And not only that, but it also makes the future easier for my kids so they don't have to jump through so many loopholes.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go through and like give everybody a chance to tell like what is one thing that professionals can do to support students who are trying to vote. So like just one thing that you can think of that like if I'm a professional and I'm working with students like yourselves, what's one thing that I could do to help them and encourage them and support them in voting? And you guys can just go like at will.
Yeah.
Inform them about, oh, sorry.
Ed.
Make sure you're informing your students about what topics are important to them. Engage in conversation about why they believe what they believe, and help them if they don't know how to register to vote or things like that, come alongside them and encourage them in that way.
Thanks, Sarah. Brina?
Sarah took my a good idea.
I knew it. I knew it. I could
No,
tell
I
by
mean,
your
it was
smile.
just- I think the most important thing that policymakers, legislators, supportive adults can do is really just get to know what like challenges young people face, what topics are important to them, what their passions are, like what is it that they are looking to change, and then support them in doing that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go next. Well, I think they can do a lot. First of all, they need to be on the field. Like our policymakers need to be more on campuses. I know they do a lot of debate on TV, talk about tax cut and stuff, but I think they need to be in touch with the population to go meet with people and give people information. And I think all the organizations like ours, like the FSM, Civic Influencer, and the policymaker, they can do a much more better job if they can include people who are suffering from it, go out there, give them the information, help them know what they are right, what is, so they can make their own decision, so yeah.
I'll go next. Going back to what Brina said about a supporting adult is just like getting to know the person you're talking to, what they're passionate about, what they believe in. And if it's not the same as you, not letting them know that, still supporting them and letting them know that no matter what they think, it still matters and will make a difference, and not making them feel bad because it's not what you agree with.
Yeah, I think everybody has said the most important, but I wanted just to add, you know, it's good to listen to the minority of people, because nowadays, like if the majority say it, then everything looks good, but it doesn't look good if you listen to the minority of people who are dealing with a lot of issues and stuff, like at first I talked about refugee. Some people, when they have a refugee status, they'll be like, yo, this is not my country, my voice will never count, all those stuff. If we speak to those people to tell them, like, even though your voice cannot count, but you can be advocating for people for the issue that you're going through. I mean, yeah, it's good to listen to the minority of people, even though they cannot vote, but they can make change by different ways and stuff. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm gonna echo Jordy and Terry here, but really getting to know what the policies are affecting and who you're talking to, but especially the minority voices, because those are the voices that go the most unheard, and they're the most deeply affected by what goes on. So really getting to know them and paying attention to them.
Absolutely. That was a great way to close this out. Thank you, Tyler. Okay, so next steps, if you want to learn more about like voting, there is a easy to use toolkit on the FSM website. Just go to fosteringsuccessmichigan.com and visit the library, and it will pop up, or you can search voting. And then also make sure that you visit the FSM Stories page to read blogs by each of our change makers. And that will also kind of bring you through the issue. We'll also be posting them on social media. And then feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need support. Thank you so much to all the change makers for taking time to talk about this today. I appreciate each of you and your work. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.